This event was conceived of, planned, and implemented by high school students for their own community, and that's what Community Call does. We go into schools and provide students the opportunity to create an event that comes out of concerns they have in their lives or their community lives. They discuss it, they plan it, and they're empowered by doing it. The fact that all of these agencies and all of these people are here working together out of a high school class, I think is something amazing.
Last fall, students at the Re-Engagement Center in Roxbury discussed a multitude of urban youth issues. One student, Eugene Johnson, articulated that many of the urban youth issues, including health, safety, substance abuse, and education, could positively be impacted by addressing the youth homelessness issue. The class agreed with them, as many of them are homeless.
I just see and know a lot of people and youth that went through what I went through and that are homeless now, that went through the system, dropping out of school or whatever the case may be. I just want to see less youth on the streets, less youth struggling by themselves. Some of us don't really have that guidance that we need, to get to the next step. I'm hoping that this issue is addressed clear enough that something is done about it.
We are going to work on this issue in the city of Boston, and I can't promise you we're going to end it, but we're going to make it better. I can promise you that.
When asked what could be done to address the problem, Eugene said, "The problem is that adults all think they know what it's like to be a youth on the street. But until you've been there, you don't know what it's like to survive. If they want to make the problem better, they should ask the youth directly." As a result, the Eugene Johnson Project, a reality check on Boston youth homelessness, was launched to solicit feedback directly from the youth who are or have experienced living on their own, and to provide feedback to those with the power to make something happen.
I want to start by thanking the Community Call folks for organizing today's event for us, for allowing young people to have a voice. I also want to really say my deepest gratitude for the young people who came today. It's a Saturday. I know many of you have other things to do, and we appreciate your willingness to share with us. I especially appreciate Eugene's courage in standing up and highlighting the issue of youth homelessness, but more importantly, in pointing the way for the solutions.
As you know, earlier this morning, you met in breakout sessions with panel experts representing education, housing, jobs, and public health and safety. We understand that people provided feedback on how these issues relate to youth homelessness, short-term proposed solutions, and long-term proposed solutions. The group then voted on the top 3 issues and recommendations within each category. The panel experts will be presenting the tabulated results, and they will do that in 5-minute presentations.
The number one long-term solution that folks want us to be working on with you is to make sure that we secure funding for healthcare and outreach services for uninsured people. That in spite of the fact that we have increased access to insurance, we must stay vigilant on making sure that our safety net institutions continue to be able to provide services to those people who don't have health insurance, and that be what we call low barrier services. Services that are going out to people, services that are going where uninsured people may be, and services that don't require co-pays, etc.
The biggest challenge that we face is the lack of emergency housing, because we don't believe that adult shelters are actually developmentally appropriate for youth. So aside from bridging with troubled waters, we don't have much of a choice. Setting up tents in designated areas would help in safe areas that are specifically, for youth and they protected. The next one was an increase in shelters. Obviously, there's a lot of adult shelters, but youth shelters, there's really none. And also transitional living for young parents.
In terms of the short-term solutions, the main one that we focused on was paid job training programs. Education is great, it's needed, and everyone wants it. But if you don't know where your next meal is coming from, if you don't know where you're staying that night, it makes it very difficult to invest the time up front in a training, in some sort of job training program if it's not paid. The other short-term solution was any way in which we can streamline the ability for people to get the required documents they need. Whether that's an ID, their birth certificate, social security, simple things that most of us may be fortunate enough not to have to experience, but when you're going through that process, it can be incredibly frustrating and time-consuming.
They talked about, and this is just amazing, but you know, young people never cease to amaze me. They are the reason why we're here, and they're the reason why I get up every morning and go into that center, because I know I'm going to learn something new from one of them. And today, they talked about the fact that, you know, here we are in Boston. We can count the amount of universities and colleges that exist, but there are so few of them that really, really provide the kind of support that they feel to the public schools, and to really providing the kind of supports they need today in education.
As I was sitting there listening, I was thinking about the different departments in the city of Boston. And when it comes to snow plowing, I think this year people gave us a grade, an A, because we did better plowing snow. We're cleaning the streets more than we've ever cleaned the streets. People are probably going to give us an A by the end of the summer because we're cleaning the streets. We're planting over 1,000 trees around the city of Boston this year. Why? Because we focused on it. Because the advocates are saying we want more trees for our environment. So we're going to plant about 1,000 trees. We're going to plant more trees than we've ever planted before in the city of Boston. We've filled more potholes in the city than any other time in the history of Boston. We have $2 billion worth of construction that's approved right now in the BRA. More than this time last year, and this year we're probably going to shatter last year's numbers and build, I don't know how many billions of dollars worth of construction work. We're doing all of that. We should be talking about homelessness like we're talking about fixing potholes, planting trees, building buildings, doing all the other things.
Yes, would you like to come down to the mic? Do you mind?
My question is, in the city where we can afford to spend millions of dollars on making public transit accessible and even shut down a major hub of public transportation in order to do that, can we really not afford to make bathrooms accessible 24 hours to people with disabilities, young children, elderly, and people who don't have a place to stay and need to be able to use them?
You know, I think we'll be working together with the mayor and other city departments to, you know, pay a lot of attention to this. You know, we know it's a public health issue already, and it was great that you brought it up in the context of homeless youth and people with disabilities. So I think we can promise you that we'll get back to you with steps that we'd like to be looking at and taking, and maybe seek your advice on, you know, whether we're moving in the right direction.
Is there like any way that you could like make like self-defense classes and like mace more accessible for like young adult females?
There are a few programs out there right now. It's something that what we'll have to do is make it not just more accessible, but more an ability for people to find where they are. And I think that's one of the things we have to do probably better. And so let me work on that. Yeah, we have the Boston Youth Fund in City Hall, 635-4500. You can call them as well. Anytime we have young people that work, actually we have a department of just young people. And I think it would be good to, Sherry Davis is the director of that department. And I think it would be good for Sherry to hear from different coalitions around homelessness. We're going to expand our program to 86 youth, high school age youth. And I think it would be great to get some homeless youth on that council to really let people know that there's a problem out there. So, a lot of the suggestions and what you spoke about today might not be necessarily a program fix, but it could be something the city could do. And the youth council, they literally meet in the next office over for me, so they have a direct line to my office. So if they have some ideas, suggestions, we're going to implement.
I just wanted to really expand on something that came up of training the staff. And I really want to talk about what that looks like for staff to not really be serving the needs of the young people who are there. You have young people who ask questions and are flat out ignored. You have young people who will say to me, can you bring this up to the staff, because they won't listen to us, but they'll listen to you. You have young people who are living in conditions that are filthy and awful for them and not healthy for them or their children. But they're told, you're in housing, so you should be happy. And I think there needs to be training really talking about like how race does impact things, how gender impacts things, how your queerness affects things. Young people are getting stigmatized out from their family, they're getting stigmatized when they're out on the streets, and then when they finally find this place that's supposed to help them, they face that stigma again. So please, please, please be working with these staff so that when they do have that temporary transition, young people can go in there and have a safe place to put their head down at night and feel okay and feel like they're a part of something and not feel like, wow, I'm walking into hell once again.
One of the suggestions that was made at our table that I thought was a great suggestion was to actually invite young people to help design and implement the training so that we're more on target with the training and it's really in fact addressing the concerns that you're all raising. So I thought that was a great suggestion and try to figure out a way to reach out and make sure we can do that as well.
From a leadership standpoint, there needs to be a lot of clarity around what the best and worst consequences are. For us, the worst consequence is that someone leaves that gym and doesn't ever want to come back. And I think that as long as there's clarity around that, we can start to create these staff training programs and have the students become the staff and create a model that really works and welcomes people for who they are and all the barriers that they might be up against.
People who are sleeping, and I know people have said something about this before, and sometimes, like someone like me, I don't do any drugs, I don't drink anything, I don't have any type of substance abuse problem. I do have compassion and understanding for people who do go through those problems, but I don't want to be immediately profiled as someone who is going through that problem just because I'm out there. So that's my thing, is when people come up to me and say, well, people from the police department will come up to me and say, this was a lot last year, was, oh, get out of here, you junkie.
I've talked to a lot of police officers that are as frustrated as everyone in this room because they see the problem probably before any statistics see it. They see young people out there in homelessness and they get frustrated because there's no place for young people to go. So what they don't want to do is arrest people just for the sake of arresting them. And then they get calls from private real estate owners, developers, whoever they are, saying, we want these people out of here. You have no idea how many times that I've defended homeless people in Boston Common at parties around Beacon Hill saying that they're causing problems, when in fact it's the drug dealers that are causing problems. And most of the homeless people aren't drug dealers because you just don't have the means to. So I think that the police get frustrated as well, and I've been working with Commissioner Evans on simply moving a problem along or a perceived problem along isn't the answer. The answer is actually coming up with solutions. First of all, Eugene, thank you for telling your story. That is a hard thing to do, and you did it, and you got a lot of talk going on, and you certainly got something interested in my brain today, so thank you very much. To the young people in here that are struggling, thank you for being here. Thank you for being in here. We are going to work on these solutions. We're going to work on the things that you're giving us today. We're going to work on the shelters. We're going to work on permanent housing. We're working on education now. We're going to continue to work on some of the things that we're doing. We know there's a problem. It's not a new problem. It's not something that was invented yesterday or created yesterday. It's been going on for generation after generation. We talk about all the great programs that we're going to institute, and we're going to look at the programs a little more and institute these programs. We need to stop talking about it. We need to start acting on it.
And before you leave, and we want to thank our panelists, we want to thank you, Mr. Mayor, we thank you all for being here. Clearly you can see the power of your voices. You were respectful, you had dignity. We thank you for who you are. And you know that you can make a difference because of this young man and that young man there. So I am sure that your ideas will be taken seriously, and this is how we change the world. Thank you all.